Hello, everybody. Hello, Dexter. Hello, Dexter.
Hey.
Look how nicely he's shaved, Megan.
Oh, he's gorgeous.
He is.
I look better on Tuesday. It's still got a bit of stubble now.
Can I say there are so many women that would be very, very impressed that that's a Tuesday growth. You're fantastic, Dexter. How are you, Queen Megan? You are a precious human. You are.
So are you, Tara.
Oh, darling.
I meant every word I said this morning.
And you know I love you forever. You're amazing. I love you in red, love you in red. And gaze in with the beautiful white portrait picture that she's got. But of course, she's got even better hair now if we ever see Gay. Hello, Gay. Oh, that's an excitement. Oh, I'm seeing a Ruth. Oh, you look, I love you in blue, Gay. Oh, I'd rather see you in blue.
Oh, okay.
That looks very nice. Oh, I'm very, very impressed. Tremendous. So we are winning. Oh, and look, our favorite person who Megan slightly is in love with, and I'm slightly in love with. That would be Josh. Good morning, Josh. It is so wonderful to see you. And Adrian is coming in. Adrian, mate, I was wondering when you were going back and if I'd see you today. So when are you heading back?
I'm actually heading back. I'm going to Queensland for 2 weeks and then heading back to Kiribati after that. So yeah.
Fantastic. When are you leaving for Queensland, darling?
On Sunday.
Fantastic. Oh, I'm thrilled. Well done, you. And beautiful Maeve's in a very attractive modish black and white. Oh, I love the mod. Do you like the mod colours, Megan, the black and white? I went through a bit of a phase where everything I had was black and white.
I'm black and red. I can't choose. I just know that black and red are my business colors, so I just stay with it.
Why don't I have a business colour? That's my question for International Women's Day. I think we all need to have an answer to that question at the end of the day. Gay, you need a business colour. Let's do that. Fantastic. And look, our favourite John is in, our Julie's in. We're going to talk to Julie in a second. Carl's is in and beautiful Ruth is in. Oh, Jules. Hello, Jules. Oh, I'm loving a bit of burnt orange. Gee, you've all chosen colours today. Oh, and Kylie's in a bit of a virginal white with a bit of floral work, mate. Oh, that's all I get. Yeah.
I haven't quite got in yet.
Said the actress with the bishop. Good, Kyles. You're looking fantastic and wonderful and beautiful. Ruth is in. My goodness me, Ruth, Darwin climate has been somewhat challenging this week, hasn't it?
It has, yes.
I've become
hopefully we'll get a bit of rain today, though.
Oh, my goodness me. So, Ruth, I've become one of those terrible people that I promised I'd never be, just sort of sitting in front of the air conditioning like a bull mastiff, right?
It's tough going.
Oh, look, thank you for saying that, because I'm thinking I will acclimatise. I will acclimatise. Academics will travel. We will acclimatise. Put me somewhere. It'll be fantastic. Anastasia's in. But look, we will start with John. We're going to go to wonderful Julie, who's given us a big request early. But John, brother, how are you? Because this is your month. No pressure, John. So how are you feeling? We've missed you.
Oh, thank you. Worn out and not sure whether I ought to just struggle to get it in or really sit back and allow one of my advisors a bit more time and ponder it, or just get it out of the bloody road.
Yeah, look, just get out of the bloody road. Well, I just want to be you, John. Look, John, I reckon, and I've got as you can see, by the way, I'm working from home today because I did a very, very early keynote and I'm not quite trustworthy to drive. So I thought I won't take that risk. I will work from home, which is why I'm in the very attractive beige. But John, I reckon I'm going to predict my life tomorrow, that I will wake up tomorrow morning alive. John, can you, at the conclusion of digital office hours, send me the final draft and I will give a good fighting go to go through that draft tomorrow, okay?
It's not absolutely final because my principal supervisor is still picking up, lots of little things in the footnotes and that sort of thing, but it's very close to it.
Right, so John, you send me the draft that you're comfortable for me to read, and then I think in, out, shake it all about, brother.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Oh, you're the best, John, but just hang in there, because can I just ask, John, before we go to beautiful Julie, can you just convey to other humans, particularly Doug, hashtag no pressure, Doug, can you just convey to other humans what this final month feels like?
Politely. Yeah, it's tiring, but when the end is in sight, it's manageable because yeah, you get tired following up all of those little things and you're worn out and frustrations. But if it's, you know, you've put the time in and you've got something there, you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so you'll get there somehow.
Yeah, look, that cliche exists for moments like this. I think that the light becomes not only a light at the end of the tunnel, but you're getting closer and closer to the end. So the problem is the minutia gets you down a bit, but just getting up in the morning and saying, today I will correct 40 things. Doing that, I think, for the final month is a ripper. But John, can you see why for my students I do the 10 drafts? I put the template over the end to remove the stress and render an unpredictable chaos predictable.
Yeah, I mean, my greatest sorrow in all this is that you didn't come a bit earlier.
So many people have said that through my life, John. Oh dear, I'm laughing deeply. John, thank you, Megan. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, mate,
Sorry, bad choice of words.
No, mate, I'm going to carry that through for the rest of my life. I'm putting that on a t-shirt, mate. Thank you. And John, look, thank you for saying that. It's been a joy and a privilege to come to CDU. And, you know, I've loved meeting you. You've been great. And, you know, there's been all these surprises in my life from CDU, of which, you know, wonderful Mary's joined us. Again, I didn't get the choral memo, Mary and Julie, but thanks for that. But, you know, to meet historians at this point of my life, where sort of, you know, my disciplinary journey has taken me so far away, and to have Gay's expertise and to have Mary's journey with me has just been phenomenal. And John, to meet you, and as you know, we've had all these weird synergetic relationships. We never met each other, but of course my parents were in Broome and, you know, worked for Sam Mail, and so I had all these magnificent purling stories that you've enabled me to bring back to life again. So life's a weird thing, isn't it, John?
You'll get a few more interesting little ones on that mail stuff too. Please take a little time to look at it. Yeah.
Oh, look, I will. Well, my mother worked for Sam Mail. She worked in the general store from 1950 to 1954. So she worked for him and knew him. So, and he was a great guy. So I hope your thesis doesn't say he was problematic, does it? He might have been problematic.
Not really, but his father was a bit.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Yes. I heard he was a bit of a mongrel, actually. I heard, and that's why Sam was actually quite a nice guy. Beautiful statue in Broome of him as well, those of you that do go to Broome at any point in your life. But John, you know, what a privilege this has been, the ebbs and flows of life. You live long enough, John. Fantastic, mate. We're just thrilled.
Thank you.
So we need to do a big shout out to John. I think probably last week and a half for our John. Come on, John. Come on, John. Now, firstly, so it's International Women's Day. I have an ambivalent relationship with obviously women and femininity, let alone International Women's Day. There is an International Men's Day in November, so we enable the binary oppositions if that's your thing. But look, I look at this day as remembering the gifts that our mothers gave us. If we do that on this day, then that's something magical, or all the wonderful women that have taught us a lot in our lives. So I think that's, whatever your ambivalent relationship to it, the what women have taught us, it's a lovely day to remember that, I think. And Jules, you did want to take us on a bit of a journey to, oh, hashtag no pressure. Look at that. Hell yeah. Oh yeah, I'm there. So Julie has an issue. A trope for us as a family to explore. And hello, Sophia. Hello, beautiful Brie. So Jules, do you want to take us on a journey? Look at Kyle's going, come on, bring this.
Brianna's little person there. Thank you. And it's really, I'm really curious about what other people think. I am looking at women in political leadership, and part of the big issue for largely women is that we bear the brunt of unpaid work, whether it's as mothers, as carers, or our mothers bore it. and there is an expectation that that continues, which is what often creates the double bind, that, you know, you work and you care and I'm just curious as to whether we put a value against or towards that unpaid work, and actually acknowledge it economically, which is the way our world works at the moment. So that's what I'm putting out there. When you think of the soldiers who went to war for Australia, when they came back, firstly, the conscripts were paid an amount of money. When they came back, there were loans, there were plots of land, there was all sorts of support for them. And I'm just wondering whether there is any thinking about how one supports and acknowledges and pays for that unpaid labor, because it's worth trillions of dollars to our economy. And our economy, this fictitious empty signifier, would crash if women, largely women, did not do the work that they do. So I'm just curious as to, am I so out on a limb thinking like that, or do other people have any ideas about how we acknowledge and pay back
Hell
to
yeah.
unpaid labor? And it's not just mothering, it's elder care, it's all sorts of things. And we saw it with COVID universally in England as well, Josh. I mean, you know, women do carry a very big load for society.
Now, Julie, what a place to start us off, and Megan was straight in there. Could I also acknowledge too, and obviously this is someone who is married to an academic and has been oft married to an academic too. Can I say, and I'm very conscious of this with Jamie Quinton as well, that when men are in the positions of seniority, so they're in a leadership position, look at Kylie straight in there is an assumption that those men have a woman that is looking after them and is looking after the rest of their life. So for the men that haven't lived this heteronormative configuration, you know, that there is a sort of a procreative family in one household, these men are being left out because, you know, no one can manage a life and a job in the contemporary late capitalist environment. It's too big. Everything is too big. And that's why people are in despair, drinking themselves into a coma or watching Netflix. So I think the unpaid labour of women, that's a caring labour, that is raising children, caring for older crew, and is completely unpaid, is crucial. And our workforce relies on it for the men as well. And so for the men that are making different choices, gay, straight, non-binary identifying crew, making different choices, the system is not supporting them either because they haven't got that caring structure around them. Straight to Megan.
The federal court, the federal family court, actually does have an equation that they use to work out how much a parent, so it's not just a woman, it's also like could be the single dad, but they do have an equation that they use to calculate how much all of that caring work is worth. And I've seen it used also in things like superannuation and when people die, and trying to work out how much the other person should get. Yeah, sorry, Tara, that was not meant to be extent, but yeah.
No, darling, it's real. It's real. What happens?
Yeah. So there is that equation there, but I think it's a bigger picture as well. It's about women's worth. It's not just about their financial worth. And in Australia, when we have one woman a week who was murdered by her domestic partner, and then we have Sam Kerr, who calls a policeman a fat white bastard or whatever it was that she said, and she has a criminal charge against her. What do we think of women globally? So that's a greater concern for me than just the financial thing. But I get, Julie, that of course this is what your thesis is about, and also young Piper with women you know, doing all of the housework. It's just terrible. The sexual division of labor is so real, and I don't have an answer. I only have my support to you, Julie, with what you're doing with your thesis.
So my thesis is not about it. So my thesis is about political leadership where the policies are made So this is a much more generic question, and absolutely, I mean, part of my thinking, and it's way off, is how can our society actually allow domestic violence to continue? I mean, but that's a completely separate issue. This is, we keep on saying, oh, but it's a labor of love and it's a this and it's a that, but it's actually not. Or if it is, women are bearing the brunt. Women are the greatest number of homeless women and homeless people amongst older women, the domestic violence, the lack of super, etc., etc. And I just feel that underneath that is an expectation of women to carry a load. And I am a mother, but I know that we all have had mothers, and it drips over or bleeds into women who are not mothers, women who care. When you look at what happened during COVID, when everyone was at home, and this, call it blue and white, so it's not male, female, but the men got to choose where they studied and worked, and they were kept separated, and the women worked at the kitchen bench or whatever, doing the kids' homework, blah, blah. And there's just an expectation that happens, that women will take a part-time job in order to care for the older, the elderly, the babies, the whatever. And I'm just thinking, we live in a world where the value of, what's the expression, people don't know the value of anything, but they know the cost of everything. And so whether it's a tax break to women, or, I don't want it to only relate to child care, because there is this whole concept of motherhood and womanhood, and that it is othered. It's, why do we have a women's bureau and a women's this when we are the majority of the society? So it was that expectation that we live in a neoliberal world where everything is valued economically. I hope that makes sense.
Go, Megan. Do you want to go again, gorgeous? And then we'll go to John.
I've always operated from a triple bottom line business model. So most men that I know will operate to cash is king, single bottom line. It's all about the cash, the money that you earn. But my own business model that then extends into my personal life is that I will not do anything unless it's good for the planet, good for people, and good for profit. And it has to be balanced. So when I got married to Paul, and Paul is my third husband, like Tara, I have multiple husbands. And one is dead as well, just like Tara.
So we're losing them, mate. We're outliving these blokes, mate.
Oh, bloody oath. It's because we actually do a lot of hard work and therefore we're exercising. But yes, I know. So I negotiated with Paul when we got married that the way I operate is to a triple bottom line. Now, he's an accountant and he has always worked to cash is king. And he makes no bones about telling me that my ideas are outdated. History and culture and society tells us that it is not outdated. It hasn't even happened yet. So come on, women. And you're right, Julie, we have all of these bureaus. And we have all of these days, but statistically and through the eyes of capitalism, women continue to be held back. And I cannot help but ask why. And I'm grateful to you for doing what you're doing, Julie.
And look, we're going to go to John and then Sophia and then Gay. I want to offer just a little bit of a structural intervention here about how and why we're in this situation. And look, that people throw the patriarchy around. What the patriarchy simply is structures that validate the masculine ahead of the feminine, not men and women, the masculine ahead of the feminine. So that's patriarchy. When we get to misogyny, that's where things get a bit yucky, because misogyny is a disgust of the feminine. So patriarchy exists, and that's structures that have particular versions of femininity and masculinity that are configured. But it's misogyny that we've got to watch, because the hatred of the feminine is a problem. Let's go straight to John, the beautiful Sophia, then up to Gay.
Well, I don't know. My position's perhaps a bit old and different. Perhaps it also coming from an all boys family. I've always put women up there on a pedestal and something better, something to be looked up to, and something to be shared. I think the sad part is that over, my lifetime, we've moved from the situation where one income was enough
And his
to
brother.
require two incomes. I can't bear a child. It was important to me to be able to have the income and the profession to be able to support my wife who wanted to do that. So it's more the attitude to your partner. We share everything. All our accounts are joint. I put massive money into her super, so even if something happens to me, she's still fine. And so we live together and we help one another. But financially, if it comes to that, we're independent, and there's just sort of, to me, too much emphasis on this economics of it, and that the women have to make money and be out there. If the men are caring for them and it's a sharing sort of life, then you shouldn't have that issue.
And John, I love you for that, because that's about, and again, I come from a pretty working class background. Most of you know Kevin and Doris. It's about a family economy. The best of men, the best of women, the best of humans, the best of non-binary identifying crew recognize that all acts and tasks and work has value. It is a family economy. Wherever the dough comes, doesn't matter too much, because it's the family economy, and all people are cared for and loved and respected for the work that they do, whether or not it's paid or not. So John, I thank you for that. And I'm a big supporter of family economies. I love that a lot. Look, well, Julie, you're going to offer a comment, then we're going to go to Sophia, and then again.
Don't want it to be an either or. I just want to open up the thinking, so that, that there's a whole notion of ethics of care, as opposed to ethics based on justice or reason or, morality. So for many reasons, the world revolves around men. The laws do, and it's not a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the reality. And we now have the space to actually say, well, actually, there's a bigger world to look at. How do you re-problematize it? How do you look at it with different eyes and say, yes, women, we value women as much as we value men. And it's not to say that they're the same or they're different. It's just opening the space to say, how do you value women when you see the problems that they're facing? How do you come up with some kind of accommodation that shows their worth? That's all. And all I'm saying is that in our world, it's often a monetary value or an economic or financial benefit. And I think that, Women's Day and Mother's Day and those kind of things have become so commercialized that they're actually irrelevant. And I'm just saying, put women in the same basket, make it a humanity rather than an either or.
I love that. And the whole point of feminism, I have a very complicated relationship with feminism. And, I write on men's studies and masculinity studies, so I'm a big fan of that. But the point of feminism was to enable all humans to have choices, was to enable all humans to not come out of the vagina and this is the role that they will live, to actually have a plurality of choices. Now, I was always going to head to Sophia, because Sophia has been such a precious part of Digital Office Hours right from the start, Angel. And, I still, look, I'm tearing up now. I still tear up when I remember the story you told us about you and your thesis in the exam. And I look at Kylie, we're both tearing up. And of course that, oh, sweetheart, don't, because I'll start. And so darling, oh, sweetheart. So tell us about that, because that I would argue was more than sexism, that was misogyny. But talk to us, Sophia.
Yeah. Oh, well, I wasn't expecting to go there today.
Sorry, darling.
No, it's okay. Yeah, so that story actually gets a little bit more complicated, because I've subsequently found out the identity of the examiner, which really added a different spin to it. But yeah, my thesis examiner had used some quite homophobic language, and had basically had said at one point that I was an example of unethical parenting. my thesis wasn't autoethnographic, but I was talking about watching children's television, and the idea of dual address, so the way that television programs for children can also speak to adults. And I just included a vignette about how my son took some aspects from a show and was really interested in them, and I took another aspect and was interested in that. So there was no kind of, I honestly don't know what was problematic about that, but yeah, there was some concern raised in the examination that was unethical, that there hadn't been, approval for human research involving children and things like that. And yeah, I do wonder if that would have come up with a man's thesis. That is, certainly a question. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought,
No,
Tara.
and can I ask, we won't name and shame at this juncture the examiner, although I hold my powder dry in future, Sophia. But can I ask the horrible question that all of us, I think we know the answer, I know the answer. Was the examiner a man or a woman or a non-binary identifying person?
So he was an older man, and but the thing that really shocked me when I found out the identity is that he's also a gay man. So
No.
it was quite an interesting kind of, it certainly added a complexity to how I felt about some of those comments, and possibly tipping that more away from what I had read as being homophobic to perhaps tipping more into the misogyny side of things. But yeah,
Yeah, and
interesting times.
Oh, Sophia, and what I'd say, my love, and needless to say, I've written a piece early in my career called The Politics of Fag Haggery, so you know exactly where I am on the gay continuum, and my, love and support of all the gay men that have made me as a human, to be frank. I wouldn't be who I am without the gay men in my life through primary and secondary socialisation. But can I say we need to work harder in building that community and that consensus, colleagues. So in other words, there's the assumption that the feminine and the gay masculinity, that both are oppressed groups, and that those oppressions render a consciousness shared, and that may or may not be the case, but we just have to work harder on speaking and listening and building those relationships up, Sophia. So I think your point's a great one. Please.
Can I share a completely unrelated story? Just because I've shared one that's a bit of a downer. So
Yes.
I'll share
Heavy downer, yeah.
I'll leave a positive one. I was just thinking about this morning and getting a little bit emotional. It happened a couple of years ago, but maybe 2 years ago, I was at a conference, and there was a Polish presenter who'd been intending to come in person, and he ended up Zooming in instead of flying to Australia. And so he started off by explaining that the reason he hadn't travelled was that he and all of his colleagues at his university in Poland had decided to pool their travel budget and to use that money to create a salaried position that would then justify a visa that could be granted to a Ukrainian academic to get them out of the Ukraine. And I thought, that's what academia should be. That is a collegiate, that is, that is a possibility for how we could be. So I just wanted to share that as a more positive
and look,
more positive experience.
Sophia, it's a beautiful thing. And you've all heard me talk about, we have the great gift of living in and from the public purse, and every dollar that I spend, I try not to spend, because most of us have come from pretty working class parents, and we know how hard it is to earn a dollar, colleagues. And so therefore that tax dollar that's come on the back of incredibly hardworking working class people who have never had a chance to go to university keeps us all honest. So whenever anybody thinks about going anywhere, I often think, do we really need to? Do we need to travel? Look at where we all are in the world now. Surely that money is better spent and supporting our colleagues that are in a part of the world where there's war and tragedy. My God, for a bit of a travel budget, are you kidding me? What a gift. So Sophia, thank you for that. And look, we'll go to Queen Gay. Gay, transform us. Come on, Gay. Bring it, girl.
I don't know that I can transform anybody today. I'm sick and I'm trying hard to stay awake.
You're doing well. I know exactly how you feel, Gay. Speak to us from the abyss.
I wanted to answer what Megan said a while ago, and I'm sorry, Julie, I know that the conversation has progressed from there, but just go back just a little bit. Megan said that she didn't know how we got to where we are. It goes back to thousands of years. The role of women and the attitude towards women goes back thousands and thousands of years, when most of the people who did the hunting and gathering were men. No, sorry, did the hunting were men, and the women did the gathering. So there was largely a distinction between roles of how to get the food. And then, of course, the men had to look after the women who were pregnant or looking after the children. Unfortunately, thousands of years later, we're still feeling like women are not equal to men and that they have different roles. I remember my mother, when she got married, she left work because she wanted a family, and that was what they did then. They stayed at home and they looked after the kids, and when the kids were at school, mum went to play tennis every couple of days. She did voluntary work to keep herself busy because, and I remember her going to a GP once for something, and he looked at her and said, "You're bored, you need to go and do more stuff." And my mother was thinking, how am I supposed to fit more stuff into my life? I am looking after all these people in my life and doing so many things. We still expect women to do this, Julie, because this is where it's come from. I agree with you that it needs to be acknowledged. Now, you also talked about the war. Women in World War One took over men's jobs so that the men could go away and fight. The tragic thing about that was when the men came back, the women had to go back to being who they had been before, because men were more important.
Well, men in paid work. Those of you that are interested in that, there's a great book by Angus Calder, written in the 1980s, called The People's War, that explored that. It was really powerful, Gay. But as Gay's captured there, it's about these roles existed. Now, you don't need a vagina or a penis to do these roles, but the roles were sort of connected to that genitalia configuration, and we need to sort of subvert that a little bit. So let's go to the Brains Trust himself. Josh, talk to us, brother.
I'll put a link in the chat. I think, Julie, to one aspect that I think helps move these conversations forward is looking at same gender couples and how things work in those situations, how that labor's divided. And there's a good conversation article where they've researched that and looked at how it's a lot more context dependent. It's based on much more micro details than that about how labor is divided. It's a bit more fluid, etc., etc. I think maybe there's some, little bits of wisdom in that can be taken out. Yeah, I don't know how things move forward with this. Fag hags are my primary and secondary socialization. So, it's quite difficult, and it's a really shocking story, Sophia, as well. And I think a lot of the time, as gay men, we are allies to feminism, but and obviously I can't generalize too much, but I think a common theme, even for younger gay men, is that we've grown up knowing or resigning ourselves to the fact that we're not going to have children, and so it becomes a bit of a sore spot for a lot of people. I think that's a challenge, is that a lot of the time, even within specifically the community of gay men, child raising, etc., is disrespected in a lot of senses, because I think we lose our fag hags in a sense at that point in our lives, almost in a way. And I think there's something interesting there. But
Josh,
I don't know, I've been enjoying the conversations a lot, though.
I've got a neighbor 2 doors down, and I've got 2 friends who have got children through surrogates.
Yeah.
and they are loved. You know, it's very much a village setup, and I'm not sure of the internal workings of who cares for, they've now got 2 children, who cares for them and how and whatever, but it's certainly not something that cannot happen.
But I suppose, Julie, it's reinforcing Josh's point that when 2 wonderful gay men decide to have a family, they have to make a whole series of very conscious choices that a heteronormative couple don't have to make. So I can accidentally fall on a
No, they do. Surely they do, because someone's got to do the caring.
Yeah.
But
But
someone has to take a back step.
That's
take
right.
You know, a lower job. But it's the wrong word, because, you know, now all of a sudden, you know, looking after a child is not as important as you know what I mean. So
oh, look, I do, but Josh, your point's a great one. Is that, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but that's sort of how I've always configured it, that, you know, when we've got gay marriages, whether lesbian or gay men, there is a consciousness to the decisions that have to be made for the child to emerge and for the parenting to occur.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, on a related note, I've moved to Taiwan to live with my husband. So I talk about sexism a lot here because people ask foreigners about their opinion of things in the country. And I often tell people that I actually think I have quite a good grasp on sexism in this country. And, you know, overall, it's pretty good, but there are issues. And it's because I'm the one, obviously, in the less stable job being in academia. So I'm the one that's made the decision to come over. And there's a huge generation gap culturally here with people. Things have changed a lot in 40 years here. There was martial law 40 years ago. So, you know, it's a really different place. And so I have very much stepped into what was the woman's role coming over here and supporting the husband. And so, yeah, it's an interesting experience to have that that patriarchy onto my situation in a sense. Yeah. But I agree, it's very much conscious choices all the time. I think there are absolutely queer couples having children, and that's awesome. But I still think they're in the minority. And I think it's because as we grow up closeted or whatever, it's just a part of life that we don't think is possible. And we shield ourselves from that side of our life. We shield ourselves from wanting to have children. I think for a lot of people, there's a huge amount of work that goes on for that before that's.
I think you've changed my life today, Josh, because obviously why I suppose I have so many fantastic gay men in my life is, of course, I made the conscious choice not to have children, and 1/4 to 1/3 of every generation of women make that conscious choice, because it has to be a conscious choice, because if I accidentally fall on a penis, something happens. You know, so it's got to be a conscious choice to not allow that to happen. And that's been an interesting choice too. And I think I've been very privileged that I've never had a single human in my 55 years going, oh, you'll regret it, Tara, you'll regret it. Because I think, and we'll talk about this with Kylie, because I think probably people have looked at my life and gone, she probably couldn't have done 1% of that if a baby had been born. It's a very interesting thing. Now, I'm conscious we're backing up here. I want to go to Mary, then Gay again, then Maeve, then Kylie. So Mary, you've been rendering the chat hot, girlfriend. Now, where are you on this, Mary? Oh, Coral Queen.
Well, you know, I'm being quite old, of course. I grew up in a time when a single wage, as John said, could support a family, and but these days, of course, a single wage doesn't, so life is much more complicated now. But also, just on the not having children thing, I actually never wanted to have kids, and I didn't. So I'm with Tara on that. I love my nieces and nephews, but I never wanted to have my own kids.
Now, Mary, I'm going to ask you a very emotional question, and you can tell me to shut the hell up on this International Women's Day, and you have a right to do that. We're good mates, but you can say, yeah, nah, Tara, bugger off. So, Mary, have you got any regrets on that? I'm happy to say I don't. I'm very happy with the life decisions I've made, and I've had the privilege of working with and marrying the most amazing human beings, and my life's been an absolute bloody joy. But Mary, have you got any ambivalence there at this juncture of your life?
Not really. I must say, when menopause came along, I did start having a very strong biological urge to have children. But I knew it was just a biological urge. It wasn't really what I wanted. I do think biology drives our bodies a lot. The older I get, I realize how much biology drives your body when you're younger. So,
Interesting. Oh, that's powerful. I'm just amazed. I always laugh though, because I go to evolutionary biology then, you know, and sort of the Jordan Peterson stuff where he says women wear makeup. You know why women wear lipstick, Kylie? Do you know why Jordan Peterson thinks women wear lipstick? Because it shows that we're aroused. And so we're attracting men, and that's evolutionary biology, because we wear lipstick to draw men into our parlor. Exciting. So, and of course that's nonsense. Women wear makeup because they choose to wear makeup. Sort yourself out. So that's fantastic. Let's now go to. So I love you, Mary, and thank you for that, and thank you for your honesty. You'll change some lives there. I think it's important for younger women to have that choice. Do exactly what Josh has really talked about there. To have the choice and know children are magnificent, and that's an option. But there's also an option to not have kids, and yet you know what? It'll end up fine. Don't worry about it. It'll end up fine. To beautiful Gay. Talk to me, Gay.
I just want to go back just a little bit. Say what they were again, please.
Hi, Gay. No, we've got you, darling. We've got you, sweet. There was a slight pause, but we've got you now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, darling.
Okay, I just wanted to go back a little bit. You mentioned an author and a book after I was talking, and I didn't catch what they were. Can you remember what
Yes,
they
I
were?
can. Angus Calder, The People's War. Wonderful. The People's War. Yes, it's on the Second World War. And it's looking at exactly what you've talked about. And there's another guy called Costello, not Elvis, Costello, that did some great work on men, women, and the war too. But that was for my first degree, so that was a long time ago. So, Gay, anything else to add to this conversation before we hit to the beautiful Maeve?
No, thank you. Well, except that I don't have children either.
My goodness.
For me, it wasn't necessarily a conscious choice. For me, it was serendipity. I never actually found a partner because I was focusing on other things. And do I regret it? I wouldn't be who I am now if I had children, but I see children with their parents and the love, and sometimes I think, that would have been nice.
Well, Gay, love exists in multiple packages.
Yeah.
And what I'd say, Gay, is packages could be coming your way very shortly. Any day, life is full of surprises. Trust me, you are a superstar, and you are a blessing to all of us that have the privilege of knowing you, Gay. So know that. Beautiful Maeve in the beautiful mod black and white today. Talk to us, Maeve.
Yes, I'll remove the hand thing in a minute. So I wanted to just go to ultra big picture here, and that is the elephant in the room: capitalism, neoliberalist capitalism, wherever you want to put your system divides. I think acknowledge feminism, I acknowledge misogyny, and all of it's a very, very complex thing that we're talking about today. Really, really big. And to some extent, children or not children, I chose a reverse position where I really wanted to have children. And I do think that was largely biology. Fair point, Mary, I reckon. But at the same time, I was an only child, and I was an only child of an only child. And our family would have died out if I didn't choose to have children. And I didn't think I did, but then I got to my mid-20s and I really, really wanted to have children.
Amazing.
And so I was coming at that from a very different standpoint, to be honest. Like I can sort of cover over it now and make it look as if I was more normalized, but I wasn't. And I was very much, and pretty much always have been, not looking for anything that could be a standard family. So,
I'm not the right person to talk about, for example, two gay men. I do know gay men who've got children, various arrangements, but for me, it was not about a two people scenario. It was simply about following my own destiny to be who I am, regardless of that. And so regardless of whether I had the right partner, I still made choices. And I absolutely do not regret the way my choices have gone. I have a grandson, I have 3 daughters, and I don't assume that that's better or worse than anyone else's life.
You're right.
And I think you get love however you get love, and we're all free, which is an incredible part of life, that we're free. So I just wanted to, I've also been a carer of elders, and also do quite a lot of caring roles with my grandson. So for me, and the fact that caring, I go right back to you, Julie, I would like to see caring have some money on it. My whole life would have been different if caring was a paid task. And I remember submitting a CV for Tara to read, and many years of my life, I was caring. I was not having a job. I'm not used to writing CVs. I have had jobs, and they primarily have come through people walking up and asking me, would you like to do this job? And then I say yes. So very complex. I just want to bring it back to the systemic nature of capitalism and how difficult it is to find who we are and find our life within the system. And I think, and I just can finish there, I think we actually go back to claustropolitanism, and I acknowledge your partner, Tara, your husband, Tara, and the 8th of March is a very big day for me as well. It's the day my father was born on, and I did not have a great relationship with him, but the day is just as important to me as if I had had.
Well said.
It's still very important to me.
Well said.
So, and then it merges itself with International Women's Day, and I tried to run with that, which is why I was suggesting we have something special to talk about, because it's a really important day. Every year, this is a really important day. So we share that day, Tara.
Oh, it's magnificent. And can I say, colleagues, I'm a big believer in courage. And obviously I did a whole gig this morning on failure. And I'm a big supporter of people being honest in CVs. And I'm a big supporter of, if people have done the hard yakka, as John said, of caring responsibilities and caring for another human being, put that in the CV as a value. Because if you are not putting that on the CV, what are you suggesting about the value of the work that you have done? And there's all sorts of random people out in the universe like me that are hiring people, and I can't probably count now how many remarkable women returning from full-time caring responsibilities into paid work and having that incredibly stressful transition. It's been one of the privileges of my life to hire people for their first job after caring responsibilities, and they have been the best workforce I have ever hired. And it's just a matter of relaxing with people, because obviously they've been looking after kids and looking after little people for 5, 6, 7 years, and to come back to an adult paid conversation workplace can be very stressful. But what a gift and a privilege as workers those humans are. So it's about acknowledging caring responsibilities, put it on the CV. Put it on the CV. And there's plenty of people like me, I'm just a random, there's plenty of people like me that go, I acknowledge the hard yakka you've done, let me hire you and show the transferable skills you've deployed. And speaking of transferable skills, let's go to Kylie.
What a very interesting and just a wonderful discussion today. I've no idea where we're going to go, so thank you, Julie. It was a great starting point. I don't know if I class myself as almost lucky, privileged, but when I was growing up, mid-70s when I was born, give away my age, my mother always worked. I was one of those kids that had the key to the back door in grade 6, I think was when I started going home, letting myself in until mum and dad got home from work. I have always seen it as that equal. Mum and dad was always equal. We have that relationship at home. It's that money, whoever's like, I'm the main breadwinner, Tim works, but it's all our money. It's the house money. And I don't thing, but I know it's 50-ish. It's going to take that time where we're going to be seen as doing equal stuff if we're doing it home or if we're doing it at work. And having worked in a male-orientated area pretty much nearly all of my career, you just don't take the rubbish. The other point I wanted to say was I think we're starting to see some value being put on the caring roles, the looking after children, the whole discussion around the carers being paid their wage amount under NDIS, the daycare people, that community employment area getting paid decent wage. I think we're starting to actually put a value on what that time and what that effort is, because it is still principally a female-orientated workforce. So I think it's slowly getting there. The third point, and again, we were very generalised around being able to have children, having male bosses and having their treatment. I look back in my career, like 28 years, I can probably put that I've had 4 women bosses. 1 was good. 3 were just as bad as some of the worst men I've got, particularly one of them where flexible work so that I could do the caring role for my daughter now that she can't go to vacation care. No, we're not flexible. Even though the enterprise bargain did allow it, she wasn't open to it. So I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies as well within employment and supporting family and supporting other females. So I think it's that everyone has the right to whatever they want to do. If that.
Now, Kylie, you and I need to have this conversation. Now, Julie has heard me say this for several hours. Look at Julie's face. She's going, oh, God, she's going to do this again. So, look, the worst bosses I've ever had have also been women, right?
Mhm.
Look at Ruth going, So, you know, the notion that a vagina, it renders you a sort of benevolent fairy moving through the cosmos going, I wish you love, I wish you love. I mean, this is just nonsense. And my argument, Kylie, and test it for Julie, test it because I am probably talking rubbish. So Kyle's, my argument for Julie is that the women that have managed to claw themselves up into a position of leadership have had to be better blokes than the blokes. And so by the time they get there, it is positively frightening because, and bless them, it's taken them longer. So the glass labyrinth argument, it's taken them longer to get there. They've taken a lot more hits. They've been hassled, destroyed, all sorts of terrible things. So by the time they get into a leadership role, they're ready to rumble, girlfriend. They are ready to rumble. And the last thing they want is another chick to have it easier than they've had it. Now, that's my argument. Am I talking rubbish, Kylie? Please help Julie, because she gets this once a week from me.
I think that's true for, again, the generalisation, maybe 70% of the times. But I think the biggest thing and probably the takeaway that I'd want to see is be the change we want to see. I love that quote. Support men and women, the people that have alternative lifestyles, support everyone and bang that head with that female that might, like I do, rattle that cage, argue the fight. It might basically drain you for 6 months, but push that because other people witness it and see it, and then it becomes normalised that that's not the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, and Kyle, I've done a lot of work on bystander theory, and this is becoming more important to me as I get older, colleagues. So this notion that bullying happens or sexual assault or sexual harassment happens, and remember that happens to men, women, non-binary identifying crew, trans crew, happens to everybody. And it's the bystanders who, if they speak out, that makes a difference. So I think we need a lot more attention to bystander culture as well.
Yeah.
I just get a yeah, thanks, Ross. Yeah.
Oh no, perfect. Yeah, so true. But and again, you do bang that head, but I think 70% of the world is trying to do the right thing. It's just that 30% that we need to go and kick out the back of the toilet, sort of thing. Yeah.
Can I say thank you, Kylie? I need Kylie in my life. 70% of the people are good. So the old goth goes, everything's terrible. We're all gonna die. So Kylie, thank you for that. So I need to go to my favorite northern friend. Oh, a lot of my northern friends have been emailing me through the night, Liam, about other matters in northern universities, can I say? Now, Liam, how are you, and what do you want to tell us from the deep night of the north of England, sir?
Hello, everybody. I came in halfway through this conversation, but I'll circle back to what Josh said, and about certain forms of queerness being celebrated or not being celebrated. You know, I'm living in the United Kingdom, where the hostile environment against queer and LGBT identifying people is being ramped up once again. It is like going back to the 80s, like being here. Like, it is reminding me of echoes of Section 28. You know, we're at a knife point again, because of failed modes of governance and government. So, you know, queer people are just being thrown under the bus, migrants, etc. Everybody. So yeah, it's quite hostile times over here. But yeah, I feel like I've always had it in a hostile kind of way, you know, living where I live, being where I'm from, having the experiences that I've had, and also I'd say as well, just in terms of the biological reality, like of not having children, I was told very, very young. I think I was like 22, 23, where it was like, you're biologically not going to be able to ever have children, or reproduce. And it was just, and then I said, oh well, you know, I'm queer, I'm a gay man. And it was like, oh, that's okay then. Well, never mind. And then that conversation was just shut down by medical professionals and also people around me. So yeah, and then being at a fertility clinic and seeing heteronormative couples, the leaflet with the sad white heteronormative couple on the leaflet basically saying, oh, you've been told you can't have children, here you go. This is the advice from the National Health Service. And I'm like, oh, guys, this is the sociology of this is so bad. But yeah, there's just it's just struck a chord with me, what a few people have said. And it really, really spoke to me. And I have these conversations quite often at work with Alison as well, who you know, who's going to be moving on somewhere else pretty soon. So I'll lose those conversations in my workplace, but you know, nonetheless, happy for that. Yeah.
But Liam and Josh, I think you've really changed us and changed our views and arguments today, because I mean, Liam, as far as I'm concerned, you know, if a human, you know, we're talking adult human and consent and all this sort of stuff, obviously, but adult humans have a right to make reproductive choices. And I think a lot of the attention, because of the abortion rights matter and reproductive rights in the United States, has focused on women's reproductive rights. But I think humans, we all gain by having a more conscious pathway to reproduction and understanding the gift of children and the responsibilities of children. And as Julie said, making sure the structures are in place and undulating to support that human as they move through those life changes, Liam.
No, and especially the question about care. Like, so if you know, I was on your vlogs in 2021 when I was caring for my mother when she broke her back during a lockdown, and was in a really perilous state. And that care responsibility, it was just like, oh well, get on with it. Who cares? You know, you've not got kids. My employers weren't interested, and that was a university. Um, my PhD supervisor was very interested and cared very much for me and was really concerned, but the neoliberal institution didn't give a who. Like, they didn't care. It was like they wanted their end product, which was that thesis.
Yeah, and look, oh, and John, mate, were you doing a fly, or you'd like to talk to us? Talk to us, John.
Yeah, I feel a bit of an odd one out here, but I do think it is in this value of humans, of whether they be men, women, gay, children. However, look, I'll just throw one firstly. One thing, when I spent a lot of time working in Japan, and I brought my daughter into work one time, and she sat there and enjoyed it. And I'd knock off at a reasonable hour, 5:30, go home with my family. A lot of the Japanese men came up to me and said, gee, I wish I was like that. I feel very much I'm just the wallet for my family. My wife decides everything, the education. I don't see the kids much. There's one little boy, one of those fathers leaving in the morning, and he said in Japanese, "Itekimasu," I go and come, and the child said, "Mata kitene," please come again. Not, which was what you said to a stranger, not what you said to your father. So, there's a real alienation, and we've got to see that we value each person. But also in saying that, and the homosexual relationships, that's the decision of those people. But in terms of children and that, I don't think we put enough emphasis on the rights of a child. I think a child has the right to be grow up in a balanced family with their biological father and their biological mother wherever possible, in a loving, caring relationship. And that's where the emphasis should be, on the positive relationships of the people. I don't see that it's a good thing for anybody to come up, homosexual, and say, I have the right to do this. They are humans themselves.
Yeah,
That's what I'd like to throw in.
John, I should teach courses on the rights of the child. Where we would disagree, I think, John, is that it's the notion of biology is family is often where you find it. And what I hope all our citizens enact is this consciousness and this reflexivity in our reproductive rights. So we enact those reproductive rights with care and respect and decency. And I don't think there's anything about being a heterosexual person that renders you a better parent. I'll never believe that particular.
I'm not saying it renders you a better parent, but I don't think we should be godlike in a sense of taking a biological process and fiddling with it, or taking making a special arrangement for a heterosexual couple to have a child. There's or anybody for that matter, of going out of interfering mechanical ways. We do have those biological urges, but if they, there's so many parentless children around the place, and to be adopted, that demand that I have the right by whatever medical means is available to have a child, I think is very conceited.
Well,
I don't think
whereas,
that's...
see, John, I would also say, and I'm conscious of time, colleagues, I would also say, John, that the assumption that heterosexual people, because we have a particular combination of equipment, that renders it a legitimate right, I would also have a concern with that.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in people making very clear and conscious choices about something as serious as having children.
As having a child, yes.
Absolutely.
I don't disagree with that.
Oh, bless you, John. And look, that's what this is about. This is about disagreement, and this is about creating argument and debate for the future. And I thank you all for this truly wonderful session. I will see many of you very, very shortly in Right Club. And colleagues, very, very happy International Women's Day to you. For those of us that have had some tragedy on this day, we acknowledge that as well, and we go forward together. Thank you all for your diversity and fabulousness, and I'll see you on the other side. See you in Right Club, colleagues. Bye-bye. Thank you for your time.